So welcome back to the playlist, and today we are going to explore the more Main Street type of business model. This is your little local based business. So when you think of small business, you think of laundromats, you think of convenience store owners, you think of, UPS store owners, those little kind of mom and pop type shops that, have provided for these families for a very long time. And the creator, Codie Sanchez, she often talks about these as a way to kind of buy businesses that are boring businesses. She says that they are boring businesses. And if you think about it, like a laundromat, yeah, it is a boring business, but it has an ongoing revenue model. And that's what she talks about a lot in her videos. She really encourages buying into a business rather than building that business itself, but buying into that business model as being something that is long-term, stable income that could provide for families, could provide you an income for a very long time, and allow you to scale it out by purchasing more and more and more of them. So we're going to jump into this business model next. We're going to talk about the pros, the cons, and the potential profits here. I'm going to go into a little bit behind the scenes of talking about this, not just from a, wow, you should buy this business and you're going to be business, rich. I'm not that kind of person. I'm really going to talk about the truthisms of opening a business model like this. So let's jump in. And hey, if you don't know me, my name is Helena, and after a career of 30 years in the finance world, I now help small businesses and sales agents to scale their business to make profits and turn around leads a little bit quicker and automate the process. It's what I love to do. I love talking about everything business. And I want to thank you if you have subscribed in the past and are revisiting our video playlist here. Thank you. And if you are new here, welcome aboard. Glad you are here. And I will link a recent viral video that I had in the bottom that talks about my YouTube journey. So it, anyway, can give you some additional insights as to running a YouTube channel, as well as the playlist that you can explore additional videos here if owning a business is something that interests you. So local-based business have a long kind of history with us. If you think back to when North America was first kind of truly settled, and I'm not talking about the horrors that happened then, it's terrible how North America was found and populated. But I'm talking about when the kind of urban sprawl happened, and you would have your saloons, you would have your general stores, your trading posts, that type of thing. Those were the first kind of businesses that popped up in most towns or local areas. That's where kind of population sprawl would kind of start. You needed to be near a general store where you could get, supplies, whether that was for your guns, or it could be material for clothes, or whatever the case may be. So a lot of people would start living near or building near a kind of local shop. And that's the beauty of this business model, is that it does have deep roots in the settlement of the human species, period. Because if you even look back even further, if I was a clay potter and I made earthenware that would help, a person cook a meal for, a group of farmers who were just starting agriculture, again, people started settling near a local based business that would be able to help them survive and thrive as the human species. So that is kind of why I love this business model, because it's part of who we are as humans. Doesn't matter where you are from and who you are. We all have this familiarity somewhere. Everyone needs to use some kind of small-based business to be able to kind of thrive and survive, whether that was hundreds of years ago or thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of years ago to today. And it's going to be around. Maybe, yes, they're going to change as time goes on, but for the most part, they've been part of our story all along the way. And this kind of business models, you do have those two paths that I kind of briefly talked about. You can either build a business or you can buy a business. And Codie Sanchez talks about buying a business because there are a lot of people who are retiring or want to retire. And they want to be able to kind of retire with some kind of return out of their business for putting all those years into it. And they are looking at for people to buy their business to help them cycle into retirement. So this is a valid way to get into business ownership by buying into somebody's business. But if you do have the means or the ability to build a business, this is also a great way of doing it. And you think of restaurateurs, or even if you had the ability to build a laundromat near a new community development, this could be a business model that really works, depending again on what type you do, where you put it, and the need for it. So let's jump in and talk about the pros, the cons, and the profits now. So one of the big pros is you do have full control, as long as it's not being financed. You do have full control of how you run it, your hours, what you offer, etc. So you absolutely get that autonomy or that personal control for everything and how your business operates and what you offer and what you do. And in some cases, the lower startup cost is another pro. You might be able to buy into a business at a fairly low cost. And again, it is because, there are people who want to exit and want to be able to transition their business, their baby that they built. They want to be able to transition it to somebody else. So it could be a potential low to medium startup cost for this type of business model as well. And another pro is, like I talked about before, people need goods and services to live and thrive. And things like, a laundromat. Even though I have a laundry machine in my home, I remember the days of my children coming home from daycare with the stomach flu and the massive amounts of laundry that came from that. Trying to put a duvet into a small little home-based wash machine, it's next to impossible. I remember trekking truckloads of laundry to a laundromat to be able to wash it in the big machines. So even though there isn't necessarily, like, if we think about apartment buildings, yes, a lot of them need to have laundry machines or laundromats to go to, but even communities do still need them because of the fact that when a stomach flu goes through a school, there's a lot of people doing a lot of laundry. So there's always going to be some kind of need for them. And for the most part, it's a lot of like hands-off type of thing. You can even hire somebody to operate your little shop as well. And that's the other pro, is that it does provide an income for other business owners or even people that come in or looking for jobs. And I know that this is going to be a controversial thing that I'm just going to talk about here, but I see a lot of people, especially in North America, saying that foreigners are coming in to take our jobs. And no, they're not, because people who come to this country do take the jobs that most, I'm going to say Canadians, that could be Americans too, but most Canadians don't want. They don't want to work in the convenience store at midnight. They don't want to work in the gas station at, 2 a.m. Those are the jobs that a lot of the people who come into our country are willing to take at minimum wages. Whereas, somebody who's earning, say, $35 an hour, they're not going to quit their job to go and work at a local Tim Hortons donut shop. They're just not going to do that. So as much as, us North Americans or wherever the case may be, say that foreigners are coming in and taking our job, they're taking our jobs. So ridiculous. These are the people who are coming in as newcomers to Canada that are filling the jobs that us privileged people don't want to necessarily take. So these little small places, these small local shops and services employ so many people who may not have the opportunity otherwise. Some of the cons are, again, if you're a gas station or a convenience store that's open late, there is some potential for, being robbed and that kind of thing. So there is some security that kind of would pose a risk in that sense. But really, for the most part, that's not the case for most small businesses. What we look at from a con standpoint for some of these more small businesses is kind of the slow upstart. So when you are a new convenience store to a town, not everyone knows who you are, what you offer. They're leery that you're price gouging, whatever the case may be. Or if you open up a laundromat, again, in a community that everyone has laundry machines, you may not get a lot of people right away, but over time, you're going to build more of kind of a attrition of customers as people start to get to know you. So there can be a slow upstart depending on the type of shop that you do open. There are more risks as well, in the sense of risk of not having good employees, of not having the right employees. Do you have the person who shows up at their 2 a.m. shift to cover the gas station? That's also something that, you hire somebody. If they don't show up, then your business is not open for those periods of time. And that is a risk. There's also the risk of something happening to the business itself. So again, I talked about it just briefly about, the security side of things, of being robbed. There could also be somebody who gets belligerent and angry and, starts breaking things. If we think of a wash machine, they get angry and they start ripping off, one of the doors, etc. Of course, there's police enforcement that you should probably bring in to help you out in that situation. But really, when it comes down to it, at the time, that is a risk to your business. There is risk of, damage to some local small businesses. And if you are building it right from the start, you are building it from the ground up. The other con is that you will require a lot of capital to start this. There is also a lot of planning involved in doing this. So that's again why Codie Sanchez talks about buying those boring businesses, because they're often established. Their customers are established. Their systems are established. Their service people are established. Their suppliers are established, etc. A lot less planning to do. A lot less startup cost when you buy into a business, but when you do build a business from the ground up, there is a lot of capital and personal investment that you have to do into it, whether it's money or time. Another con is that if you do buy a business, you often also could be buying legacy problems. And what I'm talking about is if you owned a convenience store and you were a dick to customers, you potentially, as a new buyer, are buying that reputation until you have the ability to turn that around. So there is some risk of reputation depending on who was the previous owner. Now, that being said, I know some local shop owners, two that I'm thinking of right now, but one is a pet store supply shop. The absolute salt of the earth type people. Every time I go in there, I'm smiling. I love seeing them, that type of thing. When they go to sell their business, the person who buys their business is going to be so lucky because they will inherit a lovely group of customers who are always happy. Now it's up to them, though, to make sure that they stay at that standard. And that is also a risk, that if you are buying a legacy that is super positive and amazing and you are a shadid, then yeah, that is your reputation that you mess that up, and a con as well. So you really have to take a look at it and say, is my personality, am I the type of person who would really work in this industry really, really well? So another con to consider. And on that topic, are you inheriting a PITA group of customers? So PITA, I'm going to break it down in the comments below what that stands for. But are you inheriting a whole bunch of customers who are PITAs? And myself, I would never, ever buy a nail salon. I love the people who do my nails. As you see, I have big nails. I take care of them on a regular. I would never be the person who buys that shop, because I hear how the people who come into that shop talk to the people who work there. The way that people treat other people sometimes when they feel that that person's inferior to them is disgusting. And I've had kind of beefs with people who, have talked down to others, because I can't stand when somebody thinks that they are better than someone else. And yeah, you could be essentially inheriting a PITA customer base when you buy a local based business or build one. So just think, if you're not the type who can just let it go by. I know I'm one of those who would speak my mind, hence I would probably not do well owning this type of business. But anyway, if you are the type of person who can let that brush off of you, then perhaps that's okay. But yeah, kudos to you, because yeah, I can do it. I also want to talk about considerations here as well, and location. This is something also that you've got to consider if you're opening up this business. Are you putting a laundromat that charges, $10 a wash in an area that is, considered lower income? Well, you're not going to do a lot of business there. Are you going to put a laundromat that's $10 a wash in an affluent community? That perhaps could do something well there. Because I will tell you, if they charge me $10 a wash and I didn't have to trek the clothes like 25 kilometers to do it and sit there for an entire day waiting for it to be done, yeah, I would have paid $10 a wash for sure. But if you are charging somebody who that is their sole way of earning or paying for something to be done, you really have to take a look. Location. What could I possibly make by being in this location? The other thing that I think a lot of people overlook, and it kills me because the town I lived in prior to this, I lived in a small town that was absolutely cute and picturesque. And you drive through it and you're like, oh my goodness, I really want to live there, because I was that person and ended up being there for 18 years. But you could be at the mercy of whoever owns that commercial unit. And the whole time I lived in that community for 18 years, I saw this constant turnaround of businesses opening and closing. And you ask them why are you closing? And they're like, I'm just not making enough money based on the location, based on the rent I'm paying. And rent can be out of control in some places. In the town that I was in, there was very few owners who owned these commercial units. So they could charge whatever they wanted to for those units. And a lot of times these businesses were not profitable because of it and had to close their doors. Or they had to charge crazy kind of costs to try to make it, which then again resulted them in closing their doors, because I could go to Amazon and get that product cheaper there. Why would I buy it here? And yeah, I did buy local as much as I could, but at the same time, there were times when I was a single mom that $1 was $1 and it meant a lot of money. And if I could save that by getting it somewhere cheaper, fortunately I'm going to. And you are at kind of the risk of rent not being in your control, environment not being within your control. And let's talk about hours as well. So a lot of people in that small community thought, oh, well, I'm going to open up the store or the salon or whatever because I can run it on the business hours that I want to do. I'm a business owner, so I'm going to do it around the business hours that, my kids are in school. Well, no, it doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, business hours that your kids are at school that you can be open for are not the business hours that the majority of working employed people can get to you at. So I remember trying to get to some shops at 5:30, 6 o'clock when I'm picking up my kids from daycare, or even 7 o'clock, trying to pick up my kids from daycare and trying to get them home. But I needed to pick up just one thing before I got home. And the shop is closed because they wanted to close at 4 o'clock to be home for their kids. Well, a lot of these businesses ended up going out of business because, again, you have to be open for when consumers are available to come into your shop. And if you're only open Monday to Friday from 9 o'clock till 4, hate to say it, but that's the majority of the time that people are working for others, you either need to start considering opening significantly earlier or opening later and staying open later. So, and also being available on weekends. Maybe close a Monday and a Tuesday, stay open on a Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, it's going to eat into your weekends, but you want to be a business owner. So if you do have to think of these things. Now let's talk about income. Let's talk about the bank that you could make here. So part-time, I just talked about that. Hours, it's basically impossible to build a business that is a local type business on a part-time hour basis. If you're trying to work this around your kid's schedule, No, unless you have employees that can work the evenings and weekends that you're not available to, then yeah, this is not going to be possible. And I know a lot of people who have these grand ideas of opening up a business like this, but then they won't give the trust to, say, a student to stay open and close the business on their behalf. Well, again, there's a reason why there is such high turnover in this type of business model, and it is because everyone thinks that they can work the hours that they want to and not really think about the consumer and their needs and wants. So yeah, part-time is virtually impossible. So that is a no. Now, can you get up and going in 1 to 2 years if you are doing this full time? Yes. And again, it depends on the type of business. Laundromat, once people find out that you're there, they're going to use it. Places like a UPS store, once they find out that you're there, you're going to get customers. If you build it, they will come. That's the thing. But it is going to take maybe 1 to 2 years to get that real local penetration. Now, if you're talking 3 to 5 years out, you definitely can create a decent income for yourself over a more long-term tenure. Now, with that comes hiring, so you will dip into your profits if you are hiring to offer hours that are outside of, your want to work hours. So yeah, you could have some costs that come with that, but with that gives you the ability to scale your income and to earn, I guess, more revenue over time. So, depending on the business model, you're looking anywhere from 5 to 7 to 8 digits. That is absolutely possible. But again, it depends on the business model or product or service that you are offering and the needs or the wants of the community that you are in, as well as the potential profits, or what you are charging to make that money. So that's very dependent here on that. So a quick summary here: if you want some independence, you want to be able to work locally, you want to be able to offer goods and services to the population as a whole around you, this is an absolute great service model for somebody like that. If you have the ability to build and start from the beginning, fantastic way of being able to build something that is yours right from the get-go, your baby. But you also have the ability of being able to buy an established business and transition ownership from a previous owner to yourself, whether that's immediate or over time. There's various different contracts. Again, look up Codie Sanchez. I'll link a couple of videos or a video below that perhaps would talk about this. But anyway, she knows more about this. This is a model that she does inside out and backwards. So I highly recommend you kind of take a look there. But if this business model intimidates you, it kind of scares you away because of the truthisms that I talked about here, and you've always thought, well, you know what? I could totally become an amazing real estate agent, or I know mortgages. I could become a mortgage broker, no problem. And I really love helping people, and I really want people to be successful. So I'm going to become a financial advisor. If that's for you, I'm going to include the next video, and that is on how to build a sales agent type business. And see you there. Thanks for watching. Thank you for subscribing. And yeah, click the notification bell if you want to be notified when that next video comes up. Just know I appreciate you. Thank you.